Hello and welcome to this video on brewing salts. Brewing salts are mineral compounds, typically in the form of inorganic salts, that brewers add to their brewing water to adjust its chemical composition. A relatively important thing when you consider different styles of beer particularly, but it does apply to other things. For example, different kinds of whiskey vary considerably based upon where they are brewed because of the water composition. In the case of beer, water makes up over 90% of its content, in some cases over 95%. And therefore its mineral content significantly influences both the brewing process and the final product's flavour, mouthfeel, clarity, and overall quality. The salts are derived from naturally occurring minerals and are used to replicate or modify water profiles from famous brewing regions. For example, the high sulphate waters of Burton-on-Trent in England for hop-forward beers, or the more soft water of Pilsen for a crisper lager. Common brewing salts include things like calcium sulfate, commonly called gypsum, calcium chloride, magnesium sulfate, often called Epsom salts, sodium chloride, obviously table salt, sodium bicarbonate or baking soda, and calcium carbonate or chalk. They are often sold as individual compounds, and you can sometimes get them as a pre-mixed blend, sometimes called Burton salts at homebrew supply stores. In essence, these brewing salts allow you as a brewer to build up your water from a neutral base, typically speaking about something like reverse osmosis or distilled water, in order to have a completely blank canvas. It allows you to achieve a specific ion concentration and is a somewhat crucial step, mostly because water from your tap will vary considerably by location. Sometimes it's going to be too hard, meaning high in minerals, or too soft, in which case it has a low, if not absolutely null, mineral concentration. And of course, untreated water can lead to off flavors, poor mash efficiency, or even fermentation issues. There is also the somewhat ever-present issue, let's call it, that tap water tends to have concentrations of ammonia-type compounds and chlorine-type compounds in order to make the water drinkable. So that can be a bit of a hassle, particularly if we're talking about getting the right balance and not getting weird random flavors. For a beginner, starting with reverse osmosis or distilled water should provide you a blank slate. Reverse osmosis is the best you can go for, but distilling is often the most practical option. Starting with something like this makes it easier to add a precise amount of salt without overcomplicating the process. Why brewing salts are so important is, well, the role of water chemistry in brewing. It really is that simple. Brewing is a biochemical process that involves enzymes, yeast, and certain reactions that are all sensitive to things like water pH, ion balance, hardness, and alkalinity. Untreated water will disrupt these, not can, will. That leads to suboptimal results. Think of astringency, haze, or in some cases muted flavors. So we'll try and provide you with as best we can, breakdown of the key water chemistry concepts that will be affected by brewing salts. pH is your first consideration. pH is always a major thing, especially at the start of mashing. When you mash, an ideal pH would be somewhere in the range of 5.2 to 5.6. Rather acidic, but not highly so, or lowly so, we should say. This affects enzyme activity during the mashing process, where starches convert to sugars, and then you eventually get ethanol out of it. And not always ethanol, you also have effects on mouthfeel, body of the beer, and so on, but the most obvious is going to be how much sugar you have. That will of course then have an effect on flavour. More sugar means sweeter beer. Or more alcoholic beer, depending on how well you ferment. Too high a pH will also lead to other effects, extracting tannins for example. That causes bitterness, and if it's too low, it will hinder efficiency. Salts will influence pH by introducing ions that react with malt compounds. This allows you to balance out what you need, and ideally lower the pH initially, and then you can bring it back up to something more neutral. Not exactly neutral, but more towards that point in the pH scale. Then we have hardness. This is a measure of mostly calcium-magnesium content. A permanent hardness from, say, sulfates and chlorides aids brewing, while temporary hardness from carbonates can raise pH undesirably, let's say. Then you have the alkalinity and residual alkalinity, sort of the opposite side of this. Alkalinity is the water's buffering capacity against those pH changes. This mainly comes from bicarbonate, the same thing in the human bloodstream that has, effectively, the same process and benefit. When you look at things like Ra, residual alkalinity, it's calculated as residual alkalinity equals alkalinity minus calcium over 3.5 plus magnesium over 7, and you use parts per million for each of the, let's say, ions, to be very rough about this. Higher Ra suits a darker beer. This balances the acidity from the roasted malts, while a lower Ra, residual alkalinity, is better for pale beer. Then we have ion balance and flavour. Perception is going to be the big thing here. Ions from salts will enhance specific beer characteristics. For instance, the sulfate to chloride ratio will affect whether a beer tastes hoppy or dry, and or malty and full. A ratio of 2:1 emphasizes hops, while below of this will favour malt. Yeast is also going to rely heavily on brewing salts. Good yeast means healthy yeast. Healthy yeast means good fermentation. Things like calcium and magnesium will support yeast flocculation. This is clumping for clarity, which is great for a clear beer, not so much great if you want your beer ferment for a longer period of time. So, if you have plenty of calcium and magnesium initially, you get a good metabolic process going to start with, and the fermentation should go through fairly quickly, as long as you don't use too much. Then the yeast flocculates, sinks to the bottom, and you have a nice clear beer. That provides you with a nice clear beer, simple as that, but it does affect mouthfeel and clarity. Salts contribute to body fullness and stability, ultimately reducing haze from proteins in particular. Without adjusting anything, a brewer might end up with a flat or unbalanced beer. Salts become especially useful in this regard for all-grain brewing, where mash chemistry is critical. Though extract brewers will benefit from doing so, particularly when we're talking about tweaking flavour, but that's going a little beyond the scope of this video. So we'll take a look at the common brewing salts, what they do and how they do it. For the most part, each salt will dissociate into its cations, positively charged ions like calcium, magnesium and sodium, and anions, these are negatively charged. These will be your ions that, well, you can see them here. It's really that simple. Positive charge, negative charge, put them together, you get a neutral charge. That's why I like to stay together, except when they go in water. These ions, however, when they are separated, will interact with the malt, hops, and yeast in certain ways. So if we start with calcium sulfate or gypsum, simple chemical formula here, nothing too crazy or fancy. The key ions it adds, again, simple enough, and you see here parts per million. The typical range is ideally in that same general range, but not always. The primary effects are when you add your gypsum to lower mash pH just slightly. That helps with the hop spinniness and dryness. In the case of an ale, it makes it nice and crisp. And of course clarity, because hazy beer can be nice under the right circumstances, and if you're going for something more rustic, let's say, it's perfectly fine, but most people prefer to have a nice clear beer. It not only looks better, but it has the impression of being more refreshing. Calcium chloride, again, simple formula, a relatively narrow range, and again used to lower mash pH. Boosting malt sweetness gives a bit of fullness to the flavour and body. Ultimately, it does soften the mouthfeel a bit, although not exactly. It works in conjunction with some other things. Magnesium sulfate, or more commonly called Epsom salt, again, formula. Again, another somewhat narrow range, a little bit wider, 50 to 200 parts per million, and it supports yeast health, adds subtle dryness from sulfates, and just generally only needs to really be used to add that little extra support sometimes. Sodium chloride, or as Jimmy Neutron was once criticized for saying, just table salt. Again, a narrow range, but only a small amount, which kind of makes sense. Too much salt in anything is bad for all involved. It tends to do what salt does in anything and everything else. It rounds out the flavour. It also does enhance the sweetness at low levels. The same reason why you might, for example, add salt to caramel. Sodium bicarbonate or baking soda. A somewhat wider range, but again quite low down in the range category, 50 to 200. What it does is raise the mash pH. Helps to make up for the work you've done in the early stages of mashing. It buffers against acidity in darker malts as well, which can be particularly important in darker beers. And calcium carbonate or chalk. Ideally, don't go and take your kid's chalk and grind it down and add to the beer. And get actual chalk for brewing. And possibly give that to your kids to draw with if you're buying it in a large enough bulk. Again, fairly narrow range and quite low down at 50 to 150 parts per million, but it does vary considerably. The benefit of this is that it raises the pH and adds calcium without much sulfate or chloride, which, depending on what you're doing, can be particularly important. Outside the scope of this video, but understand, chloride can cause you a lot of grief if you're not ready to deal with it. These ranges are, of course, just a general guide. There's no specifics here for any style, because your actual needs will depend considerably on your base water recipe and the style you're aiming for. A West Coast IPA might target higher sulfates for aggressive hopping, while a New England IPA favors higher chloride for a juicier mouthfeel, something moist. For use in home brewing, your salts are actually surprisingly easy. There's a step-by-step process you can follow, which is take your base water. You want to get some sort of water report from a municipal source, or if you don't have that option, use a home kit and measure the pH, hardness, and ions. Get something that covers calcium, magnesium, sodium, and sulfates, along with chlorine and carbonate if you can. If you're starting from scratch, again, reverse osmosis if you can, if not, distilled water. Ideally, you can get away without having to do that, as it's a lot of extra work and can be expensive, but it needs must when the devil drives. Next is choosing your target profile. Different styles need different kinds of water. For example, Dublin water for stouts have a high bicarbonate, or Burton-on-Trent for IPAs have high sulfates. Tools will tell you what you need, and in other cases, you can literally go to a catalog or a recipe book and go, this is the particular style I'm after, this is the water it uses, and it should tell you what you're adding. And it should give you an ideal amount for a given volume, and if you make more or less, you can just adjust accordingly. This is where you need to calculate your additions. You can either use formulas or software. Either way, it's going to work. Software will just give you a straight number for what you want. It'll tell you this many liters, add this much of whatever you're after. For formulas, you have to do it manually, but if you're already familiar with it, the process is mostly painless. For example, we have 1 gram of gypsum per gallon adds approximately 61 parts per million calcium and about 147 parts per million of sulfur. Measure precisely with a gram scale. You need to be fairly accurate with this because salts are added in small amounts, 1 to 5 grams per roughly 5 gallons, so you can easily overshoot if you're not careful. Then split your additions. 2/3 are used for the mash water for pH control, and 1/3 is used during boiling for flavour. Dissolve and add it at these times. It really is that simple. Just take 2/3, put it aside, 1/3 put it to the other side, and use appropriately. Do so by dissolving salt in warm water first, mostly to ensure even distribution. Warm water helps to break it down effectively, and you're not spending forever trying to stir it, waiting for it to mix properly. Add it to warm water for mashing or sparge water. And for post-fermentation, tweaking, dose the finished beer sparingly. For example, a pinch of salt and a pint to test. Monitor what happens and adjust accordingly. You want to brew it, taste it, and iterate on what you've observed. And pH meters will help extensively with this, especially in verifying mash pH. Start conservative when you are doing this, because if you oversalt, it can ruin everything. It's best to start somewhat under what you're expecting to need. You can make up differences in the final product by adding a little bit more salt water at the end, salt water in terms of brewing salts, not actual salt, although that may be included. Instead, start under and then add at the end if you need it. An example of this is something like an IPA. You may need high gypsum for sulfates, this would accentuate the hops, but you want to keep the chlorides low, so if you start at the lower end of adding gypsum, and then you find actually it hasn't quite made the hops as accentuated as you had hoped, you can add it to the final product and help to bring it up just a little bit. Obviously this isn't ideal, but it gives you an idea about what you need to adjust by, given your records. You are keeping records, right? For a stout or porter, a baking soda or chalk is used for higher residual alkalinity. This will simply count as the dark malt, and so you want to aim to have that plus the calcium chloride for the body feel. Lagers and pilsners need soft water with minimal salts, so obviously you want something with low sulfates and chlorides that gives you its clean, crisp profile. So you want to start even lower again if you can, because you can't get salt out once it's in. You can, however, add more. And of course, ghost or sour beers, where you can literally add the sea salt post-fermentation for salinity, adding up to 1% by volume. This will make it more tart and somewhat more full feeling. It's better to be cautious and avoid overusing salts than it is to underuse them. As said, excessively adding something will effectively ruin the beer. If you go over 100 parts per million in terms of sodium, you can actually get a metallic taste, and it just ruins it. It's better to just throw it out or turn it into malt vinegar. High magnesium can lead to astringency, and if you're really unlucky, if not just plain a victim of this, it has a laxative effect. So not only is it shitty beer, it will make you shit. And of course, most ions you want to aim to stay under 400 parts per million, other than the mentioned ions. That's simply because they just overwhelm and ruin any kind of balance whatsoever. There's also the fact that some salts, like chalk, do have issues around solubility. Chalk needs a degree of acidification in order to dissolve fully. Without that, it just does not dissolve properly. You can make up for that by using a combination of salts that do exactly this. But be aware of it, because if you're not ready to deal with it and then suddenly you have to figure out, oh, how do I adjust the recipe now, right at the last moment? Preparation's a little bit important in that respect. And, if you're a beginner, look at using pre-mixed salt packs. It's just easier for you. Or you can focus on just getting your calcium and sulfate to chloride balance right first. Both of these are perfectly valid options. The pre-mixed packs are convenient, but they tend to be only enough for a given amount of whatever you're making, which sometimes isn't quite right for the amount you're trying to brew. And they're also somewhat more expensive than buying the things individually and making your own. And of course, if you're focusing only on calcium and sulfate versus chloride, things aren't going to quite work out, as that's only one of a number of different things you have to consider. Finally, we have the more advanced things to be aware of. Ion interactions, and particularly calcium, is one of the more important things here. Excessive amounts of calcium, and we say excessive in a broad sense here, will promote protein coagulation in the boiling stage. That will give you clearer beer. It will also help considerably with flocculation, meaning that you don't get haze and you don't get yeast floating around freely. This will, however, theoretically end the fermentation process earlier, so you need to be particularly aware of it. Finally, keep your records and adjust using whatever system you have available between batches to get consistency. Sometimes you may need to rely on brewing software. There are plenty of free options available, and we have a video dedicated to one such example. Overall, brewing salts will transform your water from a relatively passive ingredient that just appears however it comes out of your tap into a tool that allows you to craft exceptional beer and make it exactly what it should be, essentially dialing it in to be exactly the very thing you're aiming to brew, rather than trying to brew and hoping for the best with whatever comes of it. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, and please do post any comments, questions, or suggestions you have below